Hello and welcome to the second video of the GTD Bonsai template. I would like to start off my second video by addressing some of the questions I got from some of you about it. One is the issue with the TX not being able to get to the note by hitting the center select button. The control navigation instead just creates a blue border around the item, and no matter what you do, you just get that. Now, Natara has said that because of the way the navigation works in the TX, using a center select button to display a note is not an option. I made a feature request anyway for them to look deeper into this based on how selection of the individual lines is done in the contact program for Palm. You're actually able to select and actually go and open up the record just by hitting the center select button. Now, I don't know if this is something that they will eventually be able to adopt, so we'll have to wait and see. But in the meanwhile, there is a workaround that Natara recommends. What you need to do is to create a shortcut to notes in your visual toolbar. Then you will need to navigate to that icon using the control navigation and then simply select that to show the note. Now I have to go back up here because I need to actually go into something that has a note so you can see. So I'll go here, I'll go to the note and I'll click it, and then here I'm on the note. Then I click hit the control navigation again, click OK, and now I'm back. So that's a workaround with how to use that. Unfortunately, this requires a few more clicks than a simple center click, but I have an even better workaround that I will update you on in my GTD Bonsai 2.0 version. Also, some of you who use older palms may not be able to navigate around the screen with one hand like you would be able to do with the TX. What I have done to get this to work on my Zyre 72 is to use a Palm freeware program called OneKey. This program allows you to navigate your screen on older palms just like you would be able to do on the TX. In the next section of the video, I'm actually going to start talking about the calendar functionality and how you can use that with your GTD Bonsai template. Okay, now on with the show. Okay, in this video we're going to show you how to use the calendar functionality in the GTD Bonsai template. Some of you may think it's crazy and actually impractical to try and manage calendar items in an outliner. I did too until I actually set the system up. The benefit of not having to go to another program is huge and not to be underestimated. Also, the benefit of being able to use strategic filters with these calendar items adds to the usefulness of this implementation immensely, and I'll show you in just a few moments. But I'd like to note that the GTD Bonsai template that I send to you guys online does not contain any inherent filters. I didn't bother to create any because when you transfer an outline, the filters are not included. So I'm going to demonstrate these filters in another outline, but this does not mean that you can't create these same filters in the GTD Bonsai template. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the outline list and bring up my list of outlines. My next actions outline is the one that contains the filters. So I'm going to click open. Now one of the advantages of not using filters for your context is their availability to be used for calendar items. Now, you may not know this at first look, but when you go through and look at some of the possible filters you have in Bonsai, the ones used for time that are related to time are really great, and it's something that you can definitely take advantage of by using them in your filters. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on the drop down menu for filters and bring up my list of filters. There are only a few actually that don't deal with time. Calendar and the GTD filters are basically, they just show one row. Instead of showing calendar and time and next actions together, they show them individually. Like GTD would show next actions, calendar would show just calendar, just the calendar heading. But anyway, that's not the main usefulness of this filter. Now, I'm not going to go into these filters in depth in describing how they're set up. Suffice it to say that most of them filter for undone checklist items and have a date attribute. For instance, next week, if you go into the filter, you'll see that it filters for items that are not done, basically to do checklist type items that are not done. And when you go to look at the the due date for the filter, you'll see that it says next week. So what you may not know is in each item for your next action, or each to do checklist items, there is a field called due date, and you can select one that says next week. Just as well, you can select one that says prior week. Well, actually it says last week. And you can also choose another one that says this week. You can choose one that says today or tomorrow. So this is how the filters are built, and this is how they take a cross section of all your next actions based on time, and in this case related to the calendar. Now, projects and the tickler filter are special cases. I'm going to need to talk a little bit more about those, but for now I'm just going to talk about the tickler filter. The tickler filter's main distinction is the start date field. Every item in Bonsai has a field for start date, just as they have a field for due date. Now what the tickler filter does is it pulls for every item that has a start date. Now the great advantage of this is that you can have an event that's coming up that you don't necessarily want to include in your calendar for this week or next week, or you're not even sure if it's something that you want for certain on your calendar, and you can put it with a start date at a certain time. Then when you pull up the tickler filter, it will pull up all these items, and it's from this list that you can decide whether or not to include them in your hard landscape calendar. Now how you would do that is you would go into the item details, and you would see that it has no due date, which is what's necessary to have it be included in your prior week or your next week or your this week or your today or tomorrow. And you would pick a due date. You would say, you know what, I want this in my calendar. So you pick that due date, and then you would go to the start date and you would select no date, and then that would take it out of your tickler filter listing and make that item now available as part of your regular hard landscape calendar. This is also great for someday maybes, particularly ones that have dates or that are date related in time. Someday maybes can also be organized using categories or keywords, since those are also available because we didn't use those for context. So that's how you can really leverage the power of using filters to manage your calendar items. And in the next video we're going to talk about projects.